Hello, and welcome to ongoing Town Meeting Day election coverage on Town Meeting TV. My name is Bobby Lucier, and I'll be the host for tonight's program, which features an overview of the proposed budget and some ballot items for the town of Essex. This program will be one in a series of forums that we're hosting in advance of Town Meeting Day this year, which falls on Tuesday, March 7th. And in our forum series, Town Meeting TV invites candidates and municipal officials to unpack the items and races that you'll see on your ballot this year. So we'll dive in just a second, but before we get started, just a reminder that our phone lines are open, and if you're tuning in live, we welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. You can give us a call at any time, and we will put you live on air, and we'll hear your question right away. So with that, I'd now like to introduce our representatives from the town of Essex who are going to walk us through the Essex ballot. So here in the studio, we have Greg Duggan, the town manager, and Tracy Delphia, the select board vice chair. So without further ado, Tracy, I'll hand it over to you as you can pull up your slides whenever you're ready, and we'll hear you talk a little bit about what Essex residents will expect in the town budget and on their ballot this year.
Perfect. Thank you, Bobby, and thanks for joining us this evening. The first item I'd like to do is just walk us through the FY 2024 budget, which runs from, our fiscal year runs from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. So each year the select board reorganizes in April. Following that, the select board identifies specific goals, not specific to budget, but on this slide we have the budget goals that were identified this past summer by the select board. So the first goal was to maintain services and positions while finding efficiencies and cost savings, which is important to keep the budget as low as possible. Also appropriately plan for maintenance and upgrades, taking care of our facilities is important to decrease that overall cost that, something terrible happens. If you put off maintenance, it's typically going to be more expensive in the long run. Some general fund highlights for the proposed budget. These will keep municipal services intact, keeping in mind that in Essex we did have some fairly significant challenges this year in our budget development. The town has lost approximately 41% of its tax base due to the separation of Essex Junction from the town of Essex. Health insurance premiums have increased approximately 20%. And inflation, as we all know in our household budgets, has been driving up many costs. This includes contractual raises to staff, general supplies, gasoline, heating costs, road salt, pretty much everything in our homes, which also affects our town budget. For cost savings and efficiencies, Essex Junction, even though we have separated, will continue to pay toward the police department. We have a contract that we negotiated with the city of Essex Junction to maintain police services, assessing services, and also for half of fiscal year 2024, senior services, so the senior center. Regional expenses, including Green Mountain Transit, the county tax, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, which provides a lot of planning services to the town of Essex, and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, those dues are decreasing in accordance with the smaller population and or the grand list, depending on the funding model for those entities. The county and regional and health and human services combined decrease equates to $422,888 when compared to the fiscal year 23 budget. The Conservation Reserve Fund contribution was also reduced. The capital transfers out of the operating budget were level funded when compared to fiscal year 23. Human services funding, which makes up 1% of the budget, will decrease again with a smaller budget. That contribution will also decrease in kind. Overtime budgets were reduced to better reflect historical spending, so bringing those in line with actual state. So we're not over budgeting, and our expected expense in that line is smaller. Also, the police are being funded at 90% to better approximate historical spending due to staff shortages. I believe Greg, help me out here. They've had 4 vacancies.
It fluctuates depending on, we hire an officer, then we lose an officer, but it's typically anywhere from 4 or 5 officers that we're short.
Right. So instead of budgeting for a full force, since we have historically had those vacancies on the books, we're bringing spending, anticipated spending more in line with actuals. More general fund highlights include a variety of staffing changes. This includes the clerk's office decreasing from 3 full-time equivalents to 2. Also, those 2 FTEs will solely serve the town in fiscal year 24, as opposed to also serving the city of Essex Junction, so right-sizing that department. The Essex Free Library is proposed to have 5 additional hours of non-substitute librarians per week. This will help with coverage. Fun fact, we actually went on a department tour last week, was able to see the library and hear about the increased utilization of the library, particularly due to COVID, but it's good to see that continuing going forward. Public Works will increase 1 position from 7/10 of a full-time equivalent to a full-time equivalent. This will allow more stable staffing, which is particularly important with COVID still present in the world today, allows them to have more stable staffing and cover job turnover, upcoming retirements. It just gives that stability for staff and also stability of services. 1 parks maintenance employee will be split with senior services to provide van coverage. Fewer budgeted hours, the driver hours would decrease, and the parks will retain 2.5 full-time equivalents. The allocation of personnel costs between the general fund and enterprise funds have been updated. Enterprise funds are essentially self-sustaining funds, so updating that again to reflect actual state. Fire department pay rates are increasing for the first time in 5 years, from $15.50 an hour to $17 an hour. Firefighters will again be paid for training. This was eliminated several years ago to more closely align to the Essex Junction Fire Department for consistency across both municipalities. Admin hours would increase for officers to better reflect work expectations within a volunteer department. And also the budget is being adjusted to better reflect the expected attendance. And all said and done, this results in a net decrease to the fire salary budget. And Greg, if you have anything to add, feel free to chime in. Additional costs are coming particularly from Essex Rescue. Essex Rescue is a nonprofit organization providing ambulance services to not only the town, but 4 neighboring municipalities. In order to ensure this 24/7 essential service, Essex Rescue has requested an increase in their contribution to $18 per capita. This is up from $10.91 in the FY23 budget. Now, because of separation, it will look as though there is a decrease, a decrease in that overall line item. There is an overall decrease in that line item. However, when you take into consideration the reduced population, it's reflective of a 65% increase for Essex Rescue, up over the increase from last year. Fund balance, the select board did utilize $615,700 from fund balance to offset the tax rate. Costs in IT, community development, and economic development departments, those are also included in that utilization of fund balance as well. We've gotten a question many times around, well, what services are no longer going to be shared? What services will be shared? We already talked about the services that will be shared. No longer being shared are IT. So IT will solely serve the town of Essex. The clerk's office, as mentioned before, will solely serve and be right-sized for the town's needs. And the recreation and senior services after December 31 of this year will no longer be shared. So let's review the overall details of the budget, get into the line items. For the proposed fiscal year 24 budget, the total proposed budget is roughly $15.4 million. This is a decrease of $1.27 million from FY23. The overall budget is actually decreasing by 7.6%. The estimated tax levy is decreasing by 27.7%, and we can get into the details of what exactly tax levy means. I'm sure these are new terms for some folks. The grand list change, again, due to the separation of the city from the town, the grand list, the funding mechanism for our budget, is decreased by 40.8%, so roughly 41%. This results in an estimated tax rate change of 22%. And you can see on the bottom of the slide, it does go into why the tax rate increase differs from the budget decrease. Again, 41% reduction. It just means that the town has a smaller tax base to fund its budget from, to raise revenue from, in order to fund the services of the town. Even though the budget and the levy are decreasing, smaller tax base results in higher than normal tax rate increase. This was expected throughout conversations with merger, throughout conversations with separation. This is pretty much in line with what was expected with the merger proposal and what was expected with the separation discussions. Non-tax revenue sources increased with the sharing of police and assessing services with the city of Essex Junction. So you'll see that those are listed as revenue in the actual budget. And it also has an estimated increase in the grand list of 1%. This is included in the tax rate. It's slightly lower than the 3-year average, just to be on the conservative side. We don't want to say, oh yeah, our grand list is going to increase by 3% and then not realize that income. So if we look more specifically at what changes are in the FY24 budget compared to the FY23 budget. The transfers to the city, previously we were transferring $1,610,137 to the city, the then village, when we moved forward with the FY23 budget. Those will no longer happen. So right off the top, that's a $1.6 million savings, if you will. Appropriations, again, Essex Rescue, Green Mountain Transit, I believe the Winooski Park District is in there, the county tax. Those are decreasing, $462,357. Again, that's due to the decrease in population. Personnel costs, including benefits, up $614,580. There are many reasons for this. Many things that go into this one particular line item. For instance, regular salaries are increasing. That accounts for only $178,314 of that $614,000. Part-time salaries are decreasing, just over $70,000. Overtime, again, right-sizing the number that's in the overtime budget, that's decreasing by just shy of $37,000. Group insurance, we all know insurance rates are going up, just over $250,000. Social Security, retirement, workers' comp, benefits in general, right on down the line. Insurance, is this for the town?
That's our property and casualty insurance.
Okay.
Yep. The health benefits, health insurance are wrapped into the personnel costs.
Okay. Yep, so those are increasing just over $142,000. inflation, salt, sand, gravel, fuel, gasoline, everything that it takes for our highway department to maintain the roads, and more. $42,000. Professional services is going up $12,641. Vehicle purchases are actually down by $25,000. Election expenses are reducing by just under $20,000. And the net of all other increases and decreases, there's slight changes in each line item. Those equate to $31,500. But obviously, we don't have enough time to break all of those out. So all of this represents a net decrease in the operating budget of $1.3 million, a little under. So there are some overall assumptions for these numbers. The first is assuming that the average residence value is $280,000. Again, that number is not indicative of the actual value of your home. So if you go onto Zillow, that's not what that number refers to. It's your actual assessed value from 2007.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Yep. Again, grand list growth of 1%, erring on the conservative side. And using $615,700 from fund balance. So our tax impact, our FY23 rate was just over 55 cents. The FY24 estimated rate, just over 67 cents. Again, 22% increase. The change on, again, the average residence value of $280,000 is $340.20 annually. So one might ask, what do my tax dollars fund? What do I get for what value do I get for my money? This chart has a breakdown of, on the estimated average, the average $280,000 home, the services that you get and what it costs to maintain those services. So some of the biggest piece here is Public Works. They do a ton of things. $521 a year gets you paved roads and plowed roads and sidewalks. Yeah, all of the maintenance that is really behind the scenes and you don't see on a daily basis. So that is our proposed FY24 budget. We just want to thank you for your continued generosity and support of the town budget that allows us to maintain the high quality services that make Essex such a great community. And I'd also like to give a shout out to staff who do a great job, continue to do a great job, and help us out with things like this.
Thank you. We're happy to do it.
Thanks so much, Tracy. So that's the proposed budget. I know there are also a couple of items, some questions on the ballot this year for town meeting day in Essex. Do you want to talk a little bit about those and what voters might expect to see there?
Yes. So some of the questions, obviously the budget is a big one. Also on the budget, there will be a question about adding 1 cent to the capital tax. Now the capital tax funds all of these projects around the city, the town, but with the loss of the city, we've lost 1.4 cents. So this is a step to make up that difference to get us back to where we were prior to separation back with FY23. So that will be on the ballot. Also, there are multiple questions regarding amending the charter. So the select board appointed a charter review committee. They came back to us with a ton of edits. Work is greatly appreciated, but we could only take a small chunk in this round. So one of them is the authority to adopt and enforce ordinances setting license fees. So for instance, if you want to set off fireworks, if you're having a wedding, you want to set off fireworks, being able to charge license fees for those sorts of things. The other is giving the select board the power to enact an ordinance to protect tenants from eviction without just cause. So the language is fairly open, but it would then allow the select board to create an ordinance that goes into detail around what that process would be. It also includes a question around the ability to recall select board members. So it would give the power to anyone within the town to be able to petition for a vote within 60 days to recall a select board member. Mm-hmm. And also creating a development review board. So this would replace the zoning board of adjustment. So we would have a planning commission that focuses just on the planning, the town plan, the zoning regulations, things of that sort. And it would move all review of development proposals or applications to a different board to interpret those zoning regulations, to decide whether an application is approved or it needs to go back to be amended.
Gotcha.
And then the election of 2 select board members and a moderator.
Great. Okay, that's a lot. So each of those charter changes are distinct items, or are they all bundled into one question?
Correct.
Yeah,
We
right.
wanted to give voters a menu, if you will, around, it's not one big package. They should stand on their own.
Yeah.
Also, it's a reorganization of the charter that's also on the ballot so that it flows better. There aren't, I think there's one slight language change. I'm not remembering at the moment what that is.
Yeah, the Charter Review Committee, when they went through their process, they suggested a reorganization of the charter to help it flow better, to be able to be more readable, digestible to the average layperson. Once the town attorney took a look at it, there was one section that he said it was irrelevant, and I'm trying to remember what that is, and I'm blanking at the moment. So it's a very small change, but it's basically something that the town attorney considered was part of the reorganization. It's part of stuff that's just not applicable anymore in town.
I believe the phrase was non-substantive.
That's right.
But just for readability, flows better, easier to find things.
Right. And so how did, you said there were a few, there were quite a few suggestions from the committee, and that these bubbled to the surface. Can you talk a little bit about how these were the ones that made it onto the ballot, of the ones that were kind of brought forward by the committee?
Sure. I think some of it, we did have a member of our community who had spoken to us multiple times around the recall language, which I think is important to give voters the ability, if there is something egregious that a select board member does, the community can vote to say, like, you are not fit for this position. So we felt strongly about including that because it was a change that was advocated for by a resident on multiple occasions. Just cause eviction has been in Montpelier, I think a few times. Last session, if I'm not mistaken, it failed a governor's veto override by 1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
So the only ability to enact that is to put it in our charter. Reorganizing the charter, it was sort of low-hanging fruit, if you will, just to update for best practice. We had previously discussed updating the fees we were charging for dog licenses, but we were unable to do that because we did not have language in our charter which gave us the authority to do that. So this would allow us to update based on, sending a self-stamped envelope, or, different impacts that may be specific to the town of Essex to update those fees.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks for that information, Tracy. Greg, is there anything that you want to chime in here and add before we wrap up? We have maybe a few minutes left.
Sure, I'll just put in a plug for Town Meeting Essex starts on March 6th. It's the Monday before Town Meeting Day, 7:30. It's going to be a new location this year. We're going to be moving it into the town of Essex. It's been held at Essex High School for years and years and years. With Essex High School now being in the city of Essex Junction, the Select Board was interested in bringing town meeting to the town. So we've partnered with the Essex Experience. We'll be holding town meeting at the Essex Cinemas and the T-Rex Theater. There's going to be popcorn, I'm just finding out today, so some snacks for folks. And as part of that, there's one question that's going to be voted on for the floor this year about moving all future business to Australian ballot. So there is still a voice vote that we're going to be having at town meeting this year. If that passes next year, all information or all questions would be by ballot. We would still have an informational town meeting. But encourage people to come out, have some popcorn, vote on that. We always have an item about public to be heard, so it's a great chance for people to come out and share their thoughts or give their perspectives on something that may not be on the agenda, but just something that's on their mind or always looking to hear from a resident, and town meeting is a great time to do that. And the other thing we're going to have at town meeting, this is the first time we do an in-person town meeting in about, I think, 3 years since COVID's been in effect.
Yeah.
One of the things we used to do was invite all of our boards, committees, municipal departments to set up a table, informational booth, so people coming to town meeting can have a chance to meet with their volunteers, meet with staff, and learn about what's happening in town and potentially get interested in volunteering. So we'll have that again this year, and looking forward to the return to in-person town meeting.
That's great. That's excellent. And if folks cannot make it to vote in person, can you talk a little bit about the process for mailing in a ballot, what that looks like?
Sure. Any resident can request a ballot by calling the clerk's office at 802-878
1341.
1341.
Yes.
Also by I know there's too many numbers in my brain tonight. Also by going to the Secretary of State's website. It's a really simple process. You just go, if you don't have an account, create an account. And you can request any ballot from there. You can do it ahead of time, super easy. And if you have questions on what that process looks like and how to do that, again, you can always call the town clerk's office, 802-878-1341.
Got it.
Okay.
Awesome.
And they'd be happy to help you out.
Great. Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you, Greg, for joining us. I think that about wraps things up here. So thank you for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local candidates, local budgets, and ballot items for Town Meeting Day this year. You can find this forum and others that have been recorded at our website, ch17.tv, or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel. And most importantly, don't forget to go out and vote or attend Town Meeting Day this year on March 7th. And keep in mind, as Tracy sort of alluded to, that some of the that the ballots are not being automatically mailed out this year in a lot of towns the way that they have been in the past couple of years. So please check with your local clerk to request a ballot, or make sure to get out to the polls or out to your town meeting day on March 7th. Thank you so much for watching Town Meeting TV. Have a great evening.